Okay, so you're probably going to have painstakingly traced around your image and spent ages colouring it in and getting everything just right. And then just after doing that, you realise it looks a bit flat, a bit plain. What you really want is some shading. But just throwing in shading isn't going to make it very good. So, I'm going to start the face. Click on the face. Shaded. Alright, let's just leave it like that for now. Okay, and for render, that doesn't add anything to it, it just makes his face look slightly darker. So, let's see what kind of effect we want. Well, we don't want that much shading, of course. We don't want it to cover his whole face, so we'll set the offset a bit lower. Let's halve it to 8. And also we'll set the blur to 8. So there we go, more defined blur. Okay, so that's looking a little bit better, but still a bit weird. So we'll put it down even more. Put it to 4. So barely noticeable, and we'll leave blur at 8 because we want it to be quite blurred. So there we go, slightly darker under his chin. Now, as we go into the hair, I'll start thinking, what kind of shaded do we want? Do we just want it like that? For render? Well, you might want it like that. But perhaps you can find a better way. So what I'm going to do is change the offset so it's smaller. There you go, a lot smaller. And just take away all blur. So there we go, we've got a completely hard edge, like a cartoon, like a toon effect. So now we render it. Got that kind of shading, but because of the pattern of the hair, we got that horrible bit there. So what we're going to do is just change the shading around. There you go, just put it to one side because it looks a bit odd like that. Okay, there we go. Shaded hair, and it's not blurred at all. Yeah, it doesn't look out of place. Now, if you do shaded on the body and the arms are 2 separate shapes. So you'll notice you have lines where you wanted it to be seamless. So that's the problem with using shaded, especially if you then put shaded on these as well. It becomes very apparent where the 2 shapes are different. So we're going to undo that. Instead going to use Halo. Now, Halo initially is yellow, but let's change that. Let's change it to a darker blue, like that. Let's render. Now that's a bit too blue, so it's not the right colour. Now we could try and find the exact same colour as that, but slightly darker, or we could simply make it black and half see-through, which creates the same effect. So there we go, we still got the problem with the arms. We can solve that by adding Halo to them. Now, because the Halo covers the edges, both the edges are going to be exactly the same colour, so it'll be just as seamless. I've got a small little glitch here because my edges don't completely line up, but that's a lot better than before. Now you can change the halo just like with shading. You might want it to be a lot smaller because you don't want quite that much, or less blurred. So we'll just play around with that till we're happy. If you keep playing around with the settings and you still can't find one you want, you might just feel that it's better with nothing. And it works just as well with nothing. So we'll leave that plain. Now I'll add shading to this. Now, this part of the top will cover that bit, so it'll be slightly darker at the top. Nope, that's a good enough effect. Now onto the legs and these armbands. Now you're going to want it shaded, obviously. Oops, not 89. So we'll just set it to 8 and 8. And the same with the other one. Okay, so now we render. See, you got that nice effect on the outside, as if it's getting darker because it's turning away from the light. But trousers don't turn away only at one side. You want to have shaded here and there. Now you could use halo, but that would make it equal thickness all the way around, and you don't want that. So what we're going to do instead, we got two effects here, so we'll just put shaded in opposite directions. There we go. If you think it's too dark, then you can change the settings, of course. Well, that'll do for now. And then you can do the same with the armbands to get the rounded effect. Now, using shading effectively can help you make things look 3D, or can just make them look more cartoony or more complete. Whatever effect you're going for. It's also worth mentioning that you can just turn on layer shading under Shadows tab, which basically shades everything. So as you can see, it's just the whole of the thing is shaded. You can play around with those settings just as you can with anything else. See, that creates quite a nice effect, but it depends on what you want it for, and it's not perfect like here at the nose. Alright then, so if you play around with shading, you should get your character to look how you want it to, which will be good for next tutorial, which is how to animate them.